We often underestimate the power of a single decision. We think that real change, big change, takes months, years, or even decades. But the truth is, transformative change happens in an instant. It begins with a single decision. You don't have to wait for the stars to align, for the perfect conditions, or for some external event to happen. Change is within your grasp at any moment, and that moment can be today. Let's take a closer look at what I mean when I talk about the power of a single decision. A lot of people get stuck in the mindset that life just happens to them, that they are passengers on a journey with no control over where they're going. But that couldn't be further from the truth. You have more control over your life than you think, and it starts with understanding that every moment you're alive, you're making decisions. Whether consciously or unconsciously, the direction of your life is determined by the choices you make. But here's the kicker: most people are living their lives on autopilot. They're not actively making decisions, they're reacting to life as it happens. They're following old patterns, repeating the same routines, and expecting something to change. That's not how it works. If you want something different, if you want to change the course of your life, you have to start making intentional decisions. Now, this is where a lot of people get stuck. They think that to make a big change, they have to overhaul their entire life. They feel overwhelmed by the thought of everything they'll need to do, so they do nothing. But here's the truth: you don't need to change everything all at once. All it takes is one decision, one moment of clarity, one choice to act, and your entire life can begin to shift. Let me give you an example. Think about a time in your life when you made a decision that changed everything. Maybe it was the decision to leave a toxic relationship, to quit a job that was draining your energy, or to move to a new city where you didn't know anyone. At the time, that decision probably felt monumental. You may have agonized over it, unsure of whether it was the right choice, but once you made the decision, everything started to fall into place. The decision itself was the catalyst for change. One of the most powerful things about making a decision is that it creates a sense of commitment. When you make a decision, you're telling yourself, this is what I'm doing. There's no turning back, and that commitment propels you forward. Suddenly, you start to see opportunities that weren't there before. You start to take action. You start to believe in your ability to make things happen. And here's the thing: sometimes the decision itself is more important than the outcome. You might not know exactly how things will unfold after you make the decision, and that's okay. The important part is that you've chosen to take control of your life. You've chosen to step out of indecision, which is one of the most paralyzing states you can be in, and into action. The beauty of making a decision is that it creates momentum. You don't have to know the entire path ahead. You don't have to have all the answers. But once you make the decision, you start moving. And movement creates progress. Progress creates confidence. And confidence creates more action. It's also worth noting that the power of a decision doesn't lie in its size. Sometimes we think that in order to make a life-changing decision, it has to be something huge like quitting your job or moving across the country. But often it's the small, everyday decisions that lead to the biggest changes over time. The decision to wake up 30 minutes earlier every day, to stop hitting snooze, to eat healthier, to speak up in a meeting. These may seem like small decisions, but they compound over time. One of the biggest mistakes people make is waiting for the perfect time to make a decision. They wait for the right circumstances, the right mood, the right opportunity. But the truth is, there's no such thing as the perfect time. If you keep waiting, you'll wait forever. The perfect time to make a decision is now. Because the longer you wait, the more you'll convince yourself to stay in your comfort zone. And your comfort zone is where dreams go to die. Making a decision is scary. It involves risk. It involves stepping into the unknown. But staying stuck where you are is far scarier. Because if you don't make a decision, if you don't take control of your life, you'll wake up one day and realize that life has passed you by. You'll look back and wonder what could have been if you had just been brave enough to choose. The power of a single decision can't be overstated. It's the difference between staying where you are and moving toward where you want to be. It's the difference between a life of regret and a life of fulfillment. And here's the good news: you have the power to make that decision at any moment. You don't have to wait for permission. You don't have to wait for a sign. The only thing you need is the courage to decide. So what decision are you putting off right now? What choice have you been afraid to make? What area of your life feels stuck because you haven't taken control? Whatever it is, I challenge you to stop waiting. Stop thinking about it. Stop overanalyzing it and just decide. Because the moment you make that decision, you'll feel a shift. You'll feel a sense of power and control over your life that you haven't felt in a long time. And that's where the magic happens. That's where your life begins to change. You are always one decision away from a completely different life. What are you waiting for? Make that decision today. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be huge, but it does have to happen now. We often hear the phrase take action thrown around in conversations about success, self-improvement, and change, but what's often missing from that advice is a key element: immediate action. Because honestly, it's not just about taking action at some vague point in the future, it's about doing something right now. There is immense power in taking immediate action, and it's this sense of urgency that separates those who merely talk about change from those who actually make it happen. The problem with most of us is that we live in a constant state of delay. We tell ourselves, I'll do it later, or I'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week, which turns into next month, and then before we know it, years have passed, and we're still stuck in the same place. Why? Because we didn't act when we had the chance. We didn't seize the moment. We allowed hesitation and procrastination to rob us of momentum. But when you take immediate action, you set a different tone for your life. You create urgency, and that urgency leads to real progress. One of the most common traps we fall into is the belief that we need to feel ready before we take action. We wait for the perfect conditions for inspiration to strike, or for a time when everything feels aligned. But here's the hard truth: you will never feel ready. If you wait until you feel perfectly prepared, you'll wait forever. Action creates readiness, not the other way around. The minute you take that first step, no matter how small, you're already moving forward. You're proving to yourself that you're capable, that you don't need perfect conditions to make progress. Taking immediate action also eliminates the space where self-doubt and overthinking thrive. When you hesitate, your mind starts to fill with excuses and reasons why you shouldn't move forward. What if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if people judge me? These thoughts keep you stuck in a loop of inaction. But the moment you take action before those doubts have a chance to creep in, you silence that voice in your head. You shift from thinking to doing, and in doing, you gain clarity, you learn, and you grow. One of the most important things to understand about immediate action is that it doesn't have to be big or dramatic. We often think that to change our lives, we need to make massive leaps, quit our jobs, move across the country, or overhaul our entire routines. But in reality, it's the small, consistent actions that create lasting change. It's the decision to send that email you've been avoiding. It's the choice to get up 30 minutes earlier tomorrow. It's the commitment to make that first phone call, take that first step, or try that new habit. These small actions may seem insignificant in the moment, but they build momentum. And once you start moving, it's easier to keep moving. That's the magic of taking immediate action. It builds momentum. You may have heard the analogy of pushing a heavy boulder. At first, it's hard to get it to budge, but once it starts rolling, it picks up speed. The same is true with your life. The hardest part is getting started, but once you do, everything begins to shift. Every action you take, no matter how small, creates more momentum. And with that momentum, you start to believe that bigger changes are possible. When you act immediately, you're also signaling to yourself that your goals and dreams are a priority. You're not just talking about what you want, you're actually doing something about it, and that sends a powerful message to your subconscious. It says, I'm serious about this. I'm not waiting for permission or the perfect moment. I'm moving forward now. That kind of commitment is what leads to real, lasting change. There's another important reason why taking immediate action matters. Time is not guaranteed. We like to think we have all the time in the world to get around to the things we want to do, but the reality is we don't know what the future holds. Every day that passes is a day you'll never get back. So why waste time waiting? Why spend another day stuck in the same patterns, wishing for things to change but not doing anything about it? The time to act is now, because the only moment you can control is the one you're in right now. Let's talk about fear for a moment, because fear is often the reason we don't act. We fear failure, rejection, embarrassment, or even success. Fear keeps us comfortable, even when that comfort is actually discomfort in disguise. But here's the thing: fear doesn't go away by waiting. It only goes away by acting. The longer you wait, the bigger your fears grow in your mind. But when you take immediate action, you face those fears head on, and you realize they're not as powerful as you thought. In fact, most of the time, the things we're afraid of are just illusions, scary in theory, but not in reality. And the only way to prove that to yourself is by taking action. Taking immediate action also helps you build confidence. Every time you follow through on something, you're reinforcing the belief that you can trust yourself. You're showing yourself that you're capable of doing what you set out to do. Confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build through action. The more you act, the more confident you become. And the more confident you are, the more willing you'll be to take even bigger actions in the future. Finally, taking immediate action puts you ahead of the curve. Most people spend their lives planning, thinking, and waiting. They overanalyze every decision, and in doing so, they miss countless opportunities. But when you act quickly, you get a head start. You're not waiting for the perfect conditions, you're creating your own opportunities. You're learning, adapting, and growing while others are still stuck in the planning phase. And that's what sets you apart. So the next time you feel the urge to put something off, ask yourself this: what can I do right now? What's one small step I can take today that will move me closer to where I want to be? And then do it. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait until you feel ready. Take action and take it now. Because the life you want is waiting for you. But it's up to you to make the first move.